Growing up, there were only 3 jobs I could see myself doing: a lawyer, a singer, or an intergalactic space smuggler. Instead of doing the first 2 myself, I married a beautiful woman who's an accomplished vocalist and soon-to-be promising lawyer. Unfortunately, the third choice wasn't exactly realistic, but thanks to the wonderful world of video games, I got to experience it through an early N64 title: Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire.
Remember all those great games we used to play growing up in the 80s and 90s? Most of them are sitting in an attic or garage somewhere, doing nothing but gathering dust. My opinion is, we should give them another look.
I was a huge Star Wars fan and video game enthusiast growing up, but the two never ever intersected. That was until Christmas morning 1996, when I got my Nintendo 64 and my very first Star Wars title, Shadows of the Empire. Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire was released December 3rd, 1996 in North America, co-published by LucasArts and Nintendo. The game coincided with the release of a Dark Horse comic and novel by Bantam Books of the same name. All 3 pieces were part of a large multimedia project by LucasArts to create a subplot between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, exploring commercial possibilities. The plot for Shadows of the Empire may be set between Empire and Return, but it focused mainly on characters and events unheard of in traditional Star Wars canon. You play as Dash Rendar, a mercenary smuggler hired by Princess Leia to aid the Rebel Alliance. Dash is pretty much a carbon copy of Han Solo, right down to his ship, the Outrider, which is a modified Millennium Falcon. I don't know if they actually tried this or not, but he actually looks a lot like Lone Star from Spaceballs, played by Bill Pullman. Wonder if you can unlock the Schwartz. Dash has been hired to track down the bounty hunter Boba Fett and uncover who is behind the plot to assassinate Luke Skywalker. This leads us to an even more devious plan by a new enemy, Prince Sizor, who hopes to overtake Darth Vader, second in command to the Emperor. In order to foil the Dark Prince's plans, Dash will have to join the Rebel Alliance and destroy the Skyhook space station. Well, it's a really interesting story that ties in nicely with the original Star Wars trilogy, but a great story doesn't make a great game. What you really want to know is, what does it play like? Graphically, it was a stunning feat for its time, and we had never seen the Star Wars landscapes in a video game look so beautiful. However, this was one of the very first games developed for the system, let alone made in an open 3D world. So while most people will quickly dismiss the rough look of the game, I still think it holds up. One of my favorite features is the beautifully drawn storyboard scenes between levels that progress the game's story. Graphics is only one aspect of the visual presentation of a game, and not the most important in my opinion. In most early N64 games, the camera angle in 3D worlds sometimes could make a game unplayable. Thankfully, Shadows of the Empire camera is near perfect. Even playing this game today, I'm amazed at how responsive the camera is. At no point did I feel that I wished I could adjust the point of view. It was always exactly where I needed it to be, and even in this gaming generation, that isn't the norm. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I really like the camera in Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. What's even more impressive is that it holds up in more than just the 3D action stages. Variety. This game just has so much to offer, and every level presents new gameplay modes and challenges. The very first level is an excellent recreation of the Battle of Hoth, where you were part of the Rogue Squadron, piloting a ship defending Echo Base. This level was so popular, it spawned its own N64 game, Rogue Squadron. The 3D action stages comprise the majority of the game's 10 levels, and are extremely fun and interesting. My favorite would absolutely have to be the Old Mantell Junkyard, as you ride the hover train to your destination and go face to face with IG-88. My least favorite, not because it's a bad level, but because of its creepy atmosphere and my deathly fear of being submerged, is the Imperial Sewers. This comes to a head when you have to go face to face with the enormous boss at the end of the sewers. And did I mention the whole fight happens as you are sinking towards him in the murky water? Man, does this ever creep me out? You have no idea. I don't actually think every level is fantastic. While I enjoy the idea of racing through Mos Eisley and Beggar's Canyon on a speeder, I find this is one level where the camera can fail you. If you take a wrong turn, you can easily end up stuck against a wall. But it's really only a minor inconvenience, and the level is still fun, especially in Beggar's Canyon, where you jump over the sand monsters from the beginning of Return of the Jedi. Each level is enhanced by the game's fantastic soundtrack, which features some classic and newly composed Star Wars themes. What's unique about the soundtrack is that it features real orchestral themes as opposed to synthesized music like in Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Man, this game just packs in so much Star Wars video game goodness. Gameplay variety, fantastic visual presentation, an amazing soundtrack, but it still feels like something's missing. Something just so familiar to the Star Wars films. Oh yeah, blowing up a giant space station. The game's final battle sees Dash piloting the Outrider in a direct attack on Prince Zizor's Skyhook space station. Once you take down the base's 4 turret towers and avoid the Imperial Forces Starfleet, you can navigate your ship through Skyhook's tunnels to the reactor core. You're going to have to make this trip 4 times and hit the reactor core with a missile on each attempt. This can be somewhat challenging, as hitting an obstacle will result in an instant death. As long as you can use the brake to control your speed, you should get an open shot at the reactor core. You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home. Shadows of the Empire is easily one of the best Star Wars games ever made. It's also one of the best games released on the N64. What's even more impressive about that is it's one of the very first games released in the N64 that uses a 3D landscape. If you haven't played Shadows of the Empire and you're a Star Wars fan, you owe it to yourself to give it a try. This is the game you're looking for. Anyways, this is MichaelBtheGameGenie, and I'll talk to you next time. You want to hear one of my favorite sounds of all time? Ah!